our business. A climate podcast that's about innovators, change makers, and entrepreneurs who are taking actions, creating solutions, and inspiring many. This podcast is supported by US Department of State, created by BBC Media Action, India.
Welcome to Cool It Down. I'm Saima. Picture this. It's early morning. You're walking through a dense, vibrant forest. The air is crisp. The earth beneath your feet feels alive. And above you, the trees stretch up towards the sky like nature's silent guardians. You hear a stream flowing nearby, crystal clear, untouched by human hands. It's a perfect balance, a delicate dance between the land, water, and air. Today on Cool It Down, we explore how we can protect this balance, not just for ourselves, but for generations to come. And to help us dive into this critical conversation, we have two incredible guests today. Supriya Sahu, an IAS officer and environmentalist who has spearheaded groundbreaking initiatives in Tamil Nadu, and Pratim, director of the Keystone Foundation, which has been empowering indigenous communities through eco-development. Together, they'll share insights on community-driven conservation, biodiversity protection, and how each one of us can play a part in preserving our planet's resources. All right, let's begin our conversation with Pratim. Welcome to the podcast that we call Cool It Down, Pratim.
Thank you. Thank you, Saima.
Pratim, we have been hearing, using, exploring, even achieving this word development. But I am now discovering to understand that the word development actually can mean different things to people on the two sides of the fence. How do you see it, having worked with the indigenous communities?
You see, that's a very, very important question. Almost the heart of this Cool It Down dialogue, I would say, conversation. You see, the way I look at development is, I look at it as a relationship, as a partnership. I don't think I have all the knowledge and the experience, and I'm like a reservoir of water and knowledge, which is flowing downstream to the communities and to the indigenous people that I work with. So the 30 years that we have been here, I have learned a hell of a lot more than what the university or the academia has taught me. So it's a two-way street where I have learned and I have unlearned a lot of things. And that's been an interesting journey. So we have been able to give something and we've been able to take a lot from them, which has also impacted our lives and our work. That's, I would say, is a development which is equitable, a development which is without any conditions, and an ecologically sustainable development, I would call it.
Right. Pratim, they say that bees pollinate life on Earth. You are an expert on the subject. What can we learn from bees about conservation, climate change, and the link between the two?
You see, bees are often not understood well because in nature, everybody talks about the charismatic species, the tigers, the elephants, the big species. But the bees are basically the gardeners of nature. Without bees, there would be no pollination. 75% of our Earth's vegetables and forest plants gets pollinated by bees.
Wow.
And to quote Albert Einstein, he says if bees are not there on Earth for 4 years at a stretch, mankind will collapse. There won't be any human species on Earth left. So bees are very, very crucial because they perform this absolute pollination services, the ecological services that no other species does it. No other species. So in terms of conservation, it does conservation in action. In terms of climate change issues, if bees are not there, the entire thing will get disbalanced. Where will you get the trees which will sequester so much carbon? Where will you get the weeds and the wetland plants and all that. It's
Right.
all things that is the small insects like the bees do it. And as you know, when you start the bees topic, I could go on till your podcast is over. But the bees, there are different kinds of bees in the world.
Mm-hmm.
In India, we have got many different kinds,
Mm-hmm.
and each have a very specific role. It's like a flower. In the flower, you have a corolla tube. All the bees cannot enter that small tube. If their flower is small, only the small bees go and pollinate inside.
Mm-hmm.
If there are big bees, then they can go into the higher and bigger forests and the higher reaches of the canopy. So nature has made extremely specialized insects which go and pollinate from the grasses to the big canopy trees which are 30, 40 meters high. And it's all done by bees. Bees and the bats and the birds. So there are several pollinators. I would say out of the pollinators, bees are a very, very high proliferated and a high efficient pollinator of flowers which make better fruits, better seeds, and perform the role of the nature's gardener.
I'm almost compelled to say that if we do not want to be stung by the climate change, we need to let them buzz. That's what bees are all about. And it is actually a discovery for each one of us to rediscover bees in our life, be the role of bees in, saving our planet, saving our earth. Pratim, your visions of the Nilgiris Foundation are all about baby steps, translating into big policy decisions that can create change on a scale. Amongst these, can you point to few that entrepreneurs can build on to create businesses that work for the better? Or of the local communities, of the climate, anything?
So you see, when you talk about the Nilgiris Foundation, I think you mean the Keystone Foundation.
Yeah.
Because the Nilgiris Foundation is another very interesting foundation which we have set up in the US, which is a non-profit actually.
Okay.
And you would be happy to know that we are having an event on bees in October 9th at New York City.
Oh, that's fabulous.
And we'll be talking about the connection. We'll be talking about the connection of the bees and people in the Nilgiris.
Wow.
So coming to an entrepreneurship, I would say what we have been doing in the last 30 years is we have set up these enterprises at the village level with the local communities. And most of these are women-led tribal communities, like the Kurumbas, like the Irulas, like the Katnayakrans, like the Sholigas. There are several of them in this region of South India, in the Nilgiri Biosphere Reserve. Now, each of them earlier, they used to just collect the forest produce and palm it off and give it to the traders at a pittance. They used to get maybe the daily wage. What we have been doing in the last 3 decades is at the village level, have a place where they can do value addition and make that value addition, take it out to the market through another company that we have.
Okay.
So we have the Adi Balay, which is the producer company,
Right.
and we have the Last Forest, which does the social and the market enterprises. So this connection of entrepreneurship with the local communities, this is the only conservation action, I would say, where we are linking up the conservation, the enterprise, and the livelihoods. It's a very simple thing. If you can't link up the ecology, equity, and economy, then why should a person who is living in the forest and protecting these forests, why should they have the incentive to be able to be part of that? They should be able to get some gain out of it.
That's right.
They have their knowledge, they have their insights, but they need some tangible income. And this is what we started, and I think we have been successful because both these profit-making companies, they are on their own. They deal with large number of communities and villages, and it's a model which many people around the world are looking to emulate and replicate.
It's so encouraging, Pratim, that you're involving the local communities and those who are actually getting marginalized because of the behavior or the attitude of others, which is contributing to. So this is extremely inspiring to hear that. And we have a ready-made model that can be replicated at other places, and they are fabulous entrepreneurial, actually they are fabulous entrepreneurial ideas, and we can build on that as well. Pratim, as an individual, I often ask as an individual, what can I do? But I want to ask you this. You've been doing this for the last so many years, but when you began, I'm sure in that journey, you would have felt a little all by yourself when you began this journey. As an individual, when you decided to go this way, what were the talks going on inside you? What was inspiring you, motivating you?
You see, it's interesting that you asked this question, because this is generally a question that people ask me in the beginning. And it's interesting that you ask me in the middle or in the end. We are three friends who started Keystone Foundation.
Okay.
Snelata, Matthew, and me.
Yeah.
We met in Delhi in 1989. We worked in a very interesting NGO over there, but we wanted to do something on the field. We were getting tired of being in the capital,
right?
And we said, let's test our theories of sustainable development, of empowerment, of understanding ecology and economics on the ground. But we didn't want to kind of go in a very generic space and a generic way. We had the insight that the connection with tribal people and bees is something very, very intrinsic. You can go to any part of the world, and if you understand honey and bees, any tribal will listen to you and look at you and want to start to engage into a conversation, because he or she knows that you know something about their lives, about facets that nobody else knows. So we did this crazy thing. We left our job. We took money from our parents and relations and friends, and we did a survey of honey hunters and beekeepers of Tamil Nadu. And we trudged for almost a year in hill areas of Tamil Nadu, looking at many, many different kind of tribal communities. And that's where we came to Kotagiri, from where I'm sitting for the last 30 years and I'm speaking to you, where we have our Keystone set up. And we said, let's start working in the villages. And if we fail, we can always go back to Delhi. And it's 30 years just passed by like this. And I would say that even now, I am so excited with the work that we do. And in many ways, I think we're still scratching the surface, because the more you get to these depths, you realize there's so much more to do. It's almost like layers and peels of things just that keep coming out. And every facet we've started to touch. We looked at livelihoods, we looked at conservation, we looked at enterprise. Now we are looking at health issues, we are looking at community radio, we are looking at eco-restoration, we are looking at wetlands, water, agriculture, markets, capacity building, education, which is very, very special for small populations. Because we have to realize that in India, we have almost 10 to 12% of India's full population are tribal people,
right?
Are indigenous people. And they live in these forested areas. So if you take this Western Ghats, Eastern Ghats, and Central India, they're more or less in these areas. Okay, you have lots of them in the Northeast also. A lot of tribal people in the Northeast. But their laws are different because the Forest Department doesn't play such a big role in the Northeast.
Right.
Here we are talking about the state playing a very big role. So we have been working very closely with the Forest Department. The Forest Department of Tamil Nadu, the Forest Department of Kerala, the Forest Department of Karnataka, in the Nilgiri Biosphere Reserve space for the past 3 decades. And the journey has been, honestly, very, very exciting. At no point we thought, Yeah, we were overwhelmed many times. We had no money many times. But at no point we thought that let's pack up and sort of, wind up this little uh, dream project that we have and go back to something else. At no point. It was like we need to dive more. We need to get into the real story. And then it was like, wow. When you make that effort, some doors open up which you never realized those doors were there. And it's a relationship for life. It's an amazing journey. That's where I said in the beginning that I have learned a lot myself, and I'm still learning. I'm still learning. Yeah.
It's awesome to hear the childlike enthusiasm in your voice. And finally, it all boils down to individuals taking actions with a larger perspective of making climate positive changes. I can safely say it is not just about the leap of faith, it's about the leap of conviction as well. Pratim, what can I do? Can you share a few simple everyday actions for me, for individuals to turn into habits that can contribute to the larger cause?
We were talking about bees. I would say, uh, if I'm sure in Delhi where you live or wherever you live, there'll be some beekeeper.
Yeah.
And nowadays even urban beekeeping has become a major thing, like urban gardening. So you don't need to extract honey or get into the honey story, because we don't need to be extractive, because we can get honey from the market. But if you just have a space for the bees, just have a box and have bees in your garden, I would say that you would really do a immense ecological service to the pollinators, to the plants, to the flowers, to the grasses, to the urban landscape and the urban nature around you. It's not that these things needed to be done only in biosphere reserves like the Nilgiris where we are in rural hinterlands. You can definitely promote bees in your own way. That's one thing. And the other thing I want to share, Sayama, with my life in the last 30 years with the indigenous communities is that, they really practice frugality. They don't talk about it.
Right.
So that has been a big influence on our lives. And people are shocked when they come to our houses and they say, you don't have many things here. I said, we really don't need so many things. So I think we can start with that. And there's a whole movement now I see. People are going in for flea markets. People are recycling things, upcycling things, all kinds of things happening. But I think the story of, frugality is a very, very deep story. And that will have a major impact on our planet for sure.
Pratim, this conversation is all about befriending the bee, and I pledge that I would. Thank you so much for joining us on this fabulous chat on Cool It Down. And I am very, very hopeful that together we can.
Absolutely, Sayama. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. It seems like I've met you many times. It didn't look like I'm meeting you for the first time over this.
Oh, same
Thanks
here.
a lot for having an interview with me. My pleasure. Thanks a lot.
Working with communities are essential if we want to conserve nature. Keep listening because we've got to cool it down together. Let's continue this conversation. Welcome to our podcast, Cool It Down, Supriya. It's such a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you so much. I'm honored and happy to be here.
Supriya, I'll start right away by asking you this very, very pertinent question. Is it oversimplifying to say that protecting natural resources can help slow or combat climate change? What makes balancing the two such a complex task?
Well, I would have a little different opinion on this. In today's world, balancing is out of context. We are no longer living in a world where you can say that we can balance growth, natural resources, development, biodiversity. I don't think, we still have the luxury of that statement. And I think the time has come when the balance has to actually tilt in favor of biodiversity. It has to tilt in favor of protecting the environment. So I think the development will have to take a little bit of a backseat. This is what I would like to say.
That's a very clear perspective, and you have put it in as many words. Over the years, you've worked with vulnerable communities to make them part of the solution. This involves understanding their local needs and livelihoods while syncing them with this global issue. Have you seen social enterprises that have been based on sustainable use of natural resources, offering livelihoods to the local communities? What do you think of viability of such initiatives?
In my experience of more than 3 decades in the civil services, wherever the local community is involved in any initiative, I found that initiative to be most powerful, impactful, and sustainable. I'm not mincing my words on this aspect at all. I think there is an absolute win-win situation when governments and local communities, people come together. I would like to amplify this by citing 2 examples. One is a recent one. In fact, in New York, at this point of time, or as we are talking, there are 100 elephants parade which is happening, and these elephants are made out of lantana, which is an invasive weed which is, which has invaded the forests in India, not only in Tamil Nadu, but elsewhere and in many parts of the world. And as we talk, this display which is happening in New York of 100 elephants, each of these elephants are made by the local community living in Nilgiris in Tamil Nadu as well as in Wayanad in Kerala. And these are the people who live inside the forest areas, in proximity of the forest areas, and they have been able to kind of spread this message that these invasives are killing our forest, and it is very important to remove them from the forest areas so that the indigenous grass, native trees can come up, which is beneficial to the local community and to the wildlife. Because wildlife at this point of time is greatly impacted. They do not have enough food, and that is why you are able to see, apart from the fact that climate change is impacting the biodiversity, you are seeing increased human-wildlife conflict in all areas, all over the country as well as in the world. Second thing, which is also very important, is Nilgiris district in Tamil Nadu remains a kind of a beacon of hope, or also a torchbearer, because that is the only district which has started 20 years back a campaign against single-use plastic. And they banned the government and the local community. They decided that they do not want to use single-use plastic, which included the plastic bags, plastic cups, plates, and the bottles, disposable bottles. And till today, even though the campaign was started 20 years back, till today, this district is a very, very good and a shining example of this partnership, which is to protect nature and environment.
And is this the Operation Blue Mountain initiative that you're talking about, Supriya?
Absolutely. Yes, I'm talking about that.
So this is Operation Blue Mountain, and at this juncture, I can't help but ask you, what are the top learnings that we have from it, which can actually become a blueprint for conserving natural resources in the fight against climate change?
So actually, this is not something which is very complex. All over the world, several studies have been done where it has become very, very clear that I think governments nowadays, they also have to play a very important role of a facilitator. So you cannot only be a regulator, and those, if you only rely on regulation, then you will go only this far. But if you, kind of partner with civil society, partner with the local community, involve them into the program, then I think the impact has a multiplying effect. And that is what is the learning from the Operation Blue Mountain. So if you really want to sustain an initiative, I think it's very important to have a multi-dimensional partnership where everybody feels a part of the project that you are doing. That is one thing. Second thing is that you need to have a very, a very, very clear thinking of what exactly, will be the outcome. And your goal, your objective should be such that you have a shared vision with the, with the people. So it shouldn't be that people have one vision and you have one vision, and that is when the clash will happen. So I think shared vision is something which makes these initiatives much more impactful on the ground.
What is phenomenal is that your efforts, at combating climate change through changing things at grassroots levels has helped transform 10 villages into climate smart villages. You have broadly spoken about, as an individual, what are the things we need to keep in mind when we go for such initiatives. But for an individual like me, Supriya, can you share some actions that I can also do in my personal capacity to help the cause?
See, this is something which is very, very important, because when you talk about a shared vision, many people are not able to understand in what way they can contribute towards, making this planet better, greener, healthier, cleaner. And that is why our messaging is always that, every single action or every individual action is as powerful as, a kind of a community action. So there are certain examples I'd like to give from the practical daily, our experiences. India has a beautiful coastline. Tamil Nadu has a coastline which spreads to 1,074, square kilometers. And there are 14 districts which are coastal districts. Now, how many people who go to, who visit beaches, they realize that a single action of carrying a plastic bag and carelessly throwing it after eating from it, how many people realize that it is something which is disastrous for turtles, for fishes, for marine biodiversity? And how many of us know that if this action, it becomes a kind of a movement where nobody throws these single-use plastic bags on the beaches, a single action can prevent so much of plastic from getting into our oceans. When we go for weddings, you have so much of food which is served, and a lot of food gets wasted because, either it is served on the table or people take it on their plates. But not many people are mindful that they must not waste food. And if they can take only what is needed, then, there is so much of a climate action that you are steering at your level. I can go on giving examples. When we brush our teeth in the morning, what is the need for us to keep the tap open? We can just kind of keep the tap closed and just use it only when we want to rinse. So these are small things if we are able to do. Just imagine the power of 1 billion people doing it. So I think that is something we need to really take it forward.
A lot of discipline, self-introspection, conscious action towards helping our planet and thereby ourselves is going to make a lot of difference. Supriya, what about the budding entrepreneurs who are tuned in right now? Your work with tea growers has transformed businesses for the local communities. What are the other untapped opportunities you see where businesses can work with local communities to bring growth and livelihood?
Absolutely. I think this is one area where there is a lot of potential and it has not yet been tapped to its full capacity. I will give you some examples, just to make this entire thing seem that it is absolutely practical to do it. There is a village in Tamil Nadu, in Coimbatore district, where the local panchayat leader, some years back, installed a windmill and started, a kind of an initiative where the electricity burden which people were taking from the grid, the electricity grid, it just came down drastically. And the windmill started powering the requirements, the energy requirement of the village. And today, that village stands as a model, where a panchayat leadership actually kind of made the entire village green. Though there are still some problems and they're trying to resolve it. But you see, look at the power of this initiative. So this is one area where, the businesses can come together to make sure that local communities' needs are met in a very effective, cost-effective way, which can be shared between communities. For example, you take the village of Pichavaram. You spoke about the climate smart villages or climate resilient villages. Our model basically is that in a particular village, if the local community could be, involved and their support could be sought, it will be easy for us to set up plants where the wastewater can be treated, where every household has a solar panel, and where the garbage management is done effectively for composting. And if they have, Pichavaram has excellent mangroves. So if the mangrove protection could be made a part of the the tourism which is coming out of mangroves, they would also feel that they are a part of this entire initiative and they need to protect it because it is connected to their livelihood and their daily life. So these are the examples, small examples, which will go to show that there is a fantastic opportunity of enterprising business people to partner with local community, and there is a lot to do in this area. Yes, Simon.
Your energy, your vision is infectious. I can say this 360-degree approach, the holistic perspective that you are carrying through your initiatives are hugely inspiring. Thank you so much, Supriya, for joining us on Cool It Down. We surely can make a difference.
Thank you, Saima, and it was an absolute pleasure to talk to you. Thank you.
As we come to the end of today's episode, one thing's clear. The future of our planet depends on how well we conserve its natural resources. It's not just a governmental or organizational responsibility. It's something that begins with each of us. From reducing water waste at home to supporting sustainable products, every action counts. That's a wrap for today. We've heard from some of the brightest minds in the business, offering us powerful tools to cool it down. Whether you're an individual or an entrepreneur, remember, it's never too late to begin and never too early to make a difference. But this is just the start. There are still many climate connections to explore and countless positive steps to take. Stay tuned because we've got plenty more coming your way.
Cool it down. Let's make it our business.